Okay. Hi, Murat. How are you?
Okay. Thank you. And how are you?
Very well.
I think you fought a traffic jam.
I know.
What?
Yeah, sorry, slight delay on my side today, but yeah. Otherwise, we are okay. We had news yesterday in the UK that we're now in lockdown fully again for 1.5 months. So before we had different levels of lockdown, but now they said official lockdown now. So
well, in fact, the news said that in the UK there is a mutant variation of the virus, so that's why you have to take it more seriously. And as far as I know, there are 5 persons who came from the UK and were somehow detected as the carriers of this new version of the virus. So here they have been taken into quarantine. And we have been under curfew at weekends, total curfew. And after 9 o'clock, we have to be at home. So are you recording?
Yes, we're recording now. Yeah, we'll get straight into it because the time is going to be short. Now it's now 4 o'clock UK in Turkey. What time is it now? 6 with you?
No, it is 7 here. It should be 5 o'clock there. No, 3 hours difference.
3 hours difference.
Yeah, the 7 o'clock here.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. No problem. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem.
Part of Europe, there are 2 hours.
That's fine. So we should have enough time. We'll try to keep it.
We can start.
Sure. So you did send me some clips and some images, which was very useful. We'll get into that shortly. But I just wanted to talk about some of the recent posts you did on Instagram, which was quite interesting. Some people contacted me, were asking me about, commenting about the posts and suggesting maybe to contact you again for another short interview to maybe explain further some of the topics you were covering. So one of them was, I think the first thing, obviously everyone is in some type of lockdown again. So you did some very interesting posts on keeping fit and training during lockdown. So can you just maybe expand a bit more on, number one, the importance of conditioning the body for archery, and what type of exercises are good for keeping fit during the lockdown when we're not able to actually physically shoot?
Okay, first of all, of course, this pandemic changed everything in our lives, and we had to adapt the new conditions. And the fitness at home is a consequence of what we are if we didn't have such a disaster. Physical strength, especially when you are practicing traditional archery. Adam Karpovich, the legendary warrior and one of my mentors, he says that it is not enough for us to replicate the bows and the arrows to revive traditional archery, but we have to replicate the archers as well, because traditional archery is mainly based on a school of archery or of an attitude that the bow is considered as a weapon of war and as a weapon of hunting. So in the tradition, whatever the tradition you are following, I mean, it may be Turkish archery, of course, there's a sportive aspect, like flight archery, but the main meaning of bow is actually a weapon of war and hunting. So, and these guys who used this weapon in the past were not ordinary people. They were not weekend archers, first of all. Like many are today. So especially in Middle East, in Anatolia, in was here. The armies consisted of professional soldiers who were recruited in very early ages and trained for that purpose, and not only physically but mentally as well. So that's why this weapon and the shooting technique with it is not for amateurs, because they, of course, and I mean, their profession. So when we are reviving traditional archery, then of course it is possible to do that with 25-pound bows, to draw that bows that our ancestors used as military elites, because we know, for example, thanks to the research of Adam Karpovich in 2005, he examined 50-plus bows in the collection of Topkapı Palace Museum and found out that the mean draw weight of these bows were 115 pounds at 28 inches. And as you may know, that the English war was used in the 60 pounds of draw weight, as revealed in the excavation of the Mary Rose wreck. So it shows that the ancient archers were really trained hard to go for these heavy bows. But at least we should understand the tradition. It is not just mimicking it or copying it in a very kitsch way. Okay, so therefore, strength and power, of course, are necessary for any kind of athletic activity, whatever you do, doing archery or whatever. In archery, it is a little bit different. In modern archery, there are some rare videos of the Korean national team of Olympic archery, and you will see that it is not a sort of hardcore strength training. They use weights, but it is quite sissy from a point of view of a serious strength trainer. But of course, the requirements of the modern archery is different. The bows are not too heavy, and they are holding the string prior to the release to aim consciously. In the old times, it was not the case because of many reasons. One of them is they had to shoot fast, and the bows were quite heavy. They had to be heavy, so it was not possible to hold the bow for a long time. And of course, when a bow is made of natural materials, wood or sinew or horn, there is a physical phenomenon which is called internal friction. So it's not a good idea to hold the bow for a long time because of the internal friction, you lose power. The bow loses power. So because of all these, the shot was executed fast. The conditioning of the body is different, of course, in traditional archery, or if it comes to traditional bows. So it is, of course, an aspect that we have to take into consideration as well. I mean, that we have to revive the tradition with all the aspects we could. I mean, not only the medical aspects, as much as we can. Of course, in the modern life, we don't use our body as much as our ancestors did. Think about that. Even for drinking a glass of water, they had to go to a fountain, carry the water, or pump it from a well. They used their body, and they walked everywhere, or they rode. And for example, horse riding is today a sports. So, but it was their daily involvement. They used their body a lot, and all the training they put on it, whether they were practicing martial arts or whether they did something else for as additional physical activity, was something added on this physical base. So, and it also is proven by many archaeological findings, I have to say. For example, I was lucky enough to be involved with the Yeni Kapı excavations in Istanbul, where 2 layers have been excavated. One of them was a Byzantine layer, 1,200 years old, and the other one is much more interesting, if you ask my opinion. It is a 7,000-year-old layer from the Neolithic of Istanbul. And graves and the well-preserved skeletons were found because of an anoxic medium which preserved all these remains. And they found out, for example, a dead body of a 45-year-old man buried with weapons, and the joints, there were problems. I mean, degenerative problems in his joints just because of the living conditions, of course. At the age of 40, 45, in today's norms, degeneration of the joints is quite rare, because we really don't live a harsh life compared to the life that they lived. So anyway, we have to understand actually how they lived, what kind of physical conditions they had, and what kind of mental conditions or mental attitude they had. In our previous interview, you may remember that we talked about the beliefs of people at the borders, how they interpreted the religions. I mean, the Orthodox religions have been interpreted differently by both sides as 2 major camps. I mean, both the Christians had some night orders, and on our side, in the Muslim side, there were some dervish orders, warlike dervish orders, and they really interpreted the Orthodox belief because of the needs of the warrior elite. So we have to understand all these, and other than just the theoretical know-how or putting theories about this, we have to do something to revive it in our personal lives as archers. So whether we are in other than the modern Olympic archery, traditional bows and traditional archery have different requirements. And for that purpose, for example, a few years ago, I wrote an article with my co-author Shinasi Acar about the Ottoman sport maces, and we found out that there is a strength training culture originated from India and passed over Iran to Anatolia. And there are some strong evidence that in 17th century, during the era of Sultan Murad IV, these sport devices were known. And I was again lucky enough to have seen 2 of these examples in the collection of Topkapı Palace Museum, which we also published in this article of us. And so a systematic conditioning of the body was known, and it has been known for a long time, for thousands of years, if you look at the old written texts of Indian culture. And of course, India, Persia, and Anatolia were very much connected, especially after the 8th, 9th centuries. So it is very much expectable that the cultural interaction occurred, and different cultures adopted many aspects from each other. So, but what I'm trying to say is that the ancient warrior was aware of the importance of physical conditioning. They knew that. And in India, this culture is called Kushti Pahlivani, and this Pahlivan is a Persian word, as you know, and today, even today in Turkey, we use that for wrestlers. So the traditional term for wrestler is Pahlivan, a term that we adopted from Persian language. But of course, the etymologic analysis of these terms may be misleading, because when we see that these terms are Persian, we may think that it's a Persian culture, but the Persian culture is very much under Turkish influence, and it is vice versa, that the Turkish culture has been influenced by Persian culture as well, because after the 9th century, the Persian plateau was ruled by Turkish dynasties, and the military elite has been Turkish dynasties. So that's why the military culture, or the martial culture, was a mixture of all these, and the systematic physical conditioning was known. The details are not very clear, except the Zorhane culture in Iran. This culture has been included in the intangible cultural heritage list of UNESCO as well, because it has really a great past, and despite despite the fact that they had also some interruptions, they kept this culture for centuries. And the Zorhane, the term refers to strength and house, strength house. So it's a sort of Iranian traditional gym.
Right.
So they are still using very interesting and unique devices. And I also included some of these devices to my daily workout program, and saw or experienced myself the benefits of it. And interestingly, for example, one of the, and of course, first of all, I have to say that these devices, these sport devices, are inspired by weapons. For example, there are devices that look like a shield. They just lay down on their back and pushing these shields up like bench press. But of course, unlike a barbell, they are not in balance. So you have to control the swinging of these big rectangular shield-like things. And at the same time, so the length of the exercises they use. And there's another device, for example, which is called Kepaze or Kepaze, like the weak training ball, but it is not a ball, but it looks like a ball. In fact, it's a device made of steel and chain. So there's the chain attached to a ball-like or ball-shaped steel stick or club. So this device is nothing to do with the archer's pulling movement, but it should be studied. I mean, there is an interesting move like this. Just imagine that there is a chain wire in one of my hands and the other thing which is shaped like a bow, and they are somehow swinging it above their head. And I don't know what the target muscles are, what kind of purpose they have in doing this exercise, but the name is Kepaze or Kepaze, and maybe it is something to do with the muscles that we are using in shooting a bow. So conditioning has always been important. There are evidence from Roman culture, and in most of the time they used their body weight. Although they used also some equipment, like I mentioned. But body weight is quite a practical way to condition your body, especially in lockdown. You don't need any equipment. So when I was 17-year-old, weightlifting, of course, the goals and the purposes were different at that ages, that you want to look better because you want to have good impression on girls or whatever. But when you age, when you get older, the purpose and the goal change, of course. And there are reasons. One of them is replicate the archers as well. If you want to do traditional archery seriously, then you have to change your body as well. It's not enough to get a composite or to have a thumb ring or to learn how to shoot with a thumb ring. One of the reasons is that. The other reason is a natural aging, the result of natural aging, let's say, after the age of 40, the muscle mass is getting lost. It's called sarcopenia. This is a medical term. And sarcopenia does not occur only after years. So this is a problem in lockdown for everyone, even for kids. In lockdown, to move a lot. They don't. So in general, before going specifically to archery and how we would condition our bodies for archery, I have to say that this is something that we have to take into consideration when we are older or because of the lockdown. So it was my one of my main considerations, because I'm muscle mass and my ability to move.
No, definitely. I think yes.
And therefore, not only about archery. What did you ask? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that you made a very good point that you know, maybe nowadays we are more concerned with the equipment and having the right arrows and the bow and the right thumb ring, etc. But we're not focused enough on us ourselves as the archer. We also need to give. We also need to meet a certain standard so that we can give the equipment its own right as well. You know, we cannot just expect the equipment to always perform, and we are substandard. So I think what you said was very pertinent, that you know we need to make sure that we are also of a certain standard so that we can meet and that we are correctly tuned with the equipment. You know, we want the arrows and the bows to be tuned together, but if we are not in tune with the equipment, we cannot reach the level that we're trying to get to. Yes.
Yeah.
Go on.
Very good. Very good point. Very good point. Very good point. Because coincidentally, and as one of the best experiences of my life, I was involved with this Yeni Kapı excavation, archaeological excavations, and I was involved also with the findings of some prehistoric weapons that are called hunting boomerang. The term is not aerodynamically shaped sticks that you throw, and like a propeller, they create lift and they fly on a very straight trajectory and with almost no parabol, straight up to 100 meters or so. And these kind of weapons have been used widely. The oldest one was excavated in a cave in Poland, and it's dated back to 23,000 before present. So it is very old, made of mammoth ivory. And they made some replicas of this weapon. In fact, I got official permission from the Minister of Culture to study on these weapons, and I also published an article. And for that purpose, I studied these weapons as well. To be stronger, faster, more powerful if you have a primitive weapon. Of course, if it comes to Turkish archery and the thumb release, it is maybe one of the newest ones compared to a prehistoric bow or compared to a throwing stick or other than the requirements of primitive life. The military elites had different requirements in order to have very high, because war or fighting was based on physical power. I think it always modern armies consider the physical development of soldiers I'm not talking about the ordinary courses, are so well conditioned physically. And this is the general conditioning, what we can do or what we should do, muscle mass in maintaining our health. And about our lockdown, about that too. Instagram posts of mine about this, like for example, the basic fundamental and torba. These two stages are the very first stages of the training of Turkish archery as well. And I am a strong believer that this is a very important stage. And I have to say, for example, there's a very famous author from the 17th century, Katip Abdullah Çelebi, who wrote three very important treatises in the Ottoman era in 1683. And advocates argued or discussed about what the most important aspect of the training is. So Katip Abdullah says or quotes that, okay.
Yes, Murat, sorry, my internet is not really great at the moment, but I can hear and see you now. You can continue.
That right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Çelebi.
And he also quoted the others, I mean, the pro and contra opinions. He also said that some believe in the importance of torba and kepaze to be a proficient archer. So although there is such a statement of Katip, if you are very good in Kepaze and torba training, and if you keep doing that in all your career of archery, you will not lose anything. For example, we had to take a long break in the last March. I mean, in Tirendaz, in our group, we had to stop the practices because of the safety reasons. Because we have an indoor range, like many know, because of the videos I share, and the airing is not very well. So I really hesitated to be there, 20-25 people, shoulder to shoulder, and I really did not want to take any risk. So we took a break, and then things became to be more clear, and we found out that this pandemic will last the system. For that purpose, I started a masterclass, and so that we could increase the number of the lessons that we, or the number of the practices every day, so 6 days a week, and with small of these small groups would have a trainer which will be involved, or who will be in charge. So we also reorganized that, but even with this system, we didn't find it safe enough. But what I'm trying to say, after all these months that I could not shoot, but I kept pulling Kepaze. When I came back during this master, and I even did some or performed some trick shots, and I shared them as well. But I kept pulling Kepaze. That's something I have been recommending to my students as well. It is very important. I could not even shoot torba, which is also very important in the maintenance of your skill. But I live in an apartment, and in Istanbul, people live really next to each other. So even the slam of the arrow to target bot makes noise in a metropolitan life, or in the life of in a metropolitan city. So that's why I did not even shoot torba. But I have to say that if anyone can do that, if there's no negative consequences like this, causing noise, for example, which would disturb the neighbors, torba practice is performed in a very short range. So if you have a room or just a corner of a room, and have to have a very good arrow stop or a backstop, then you can also practice torba. So as I said, I have always been only in learning as a candidate, but also to maintain skill as a master archer. And Kepaze is so important, and not only for the maintenance practice. One of them is, for example, when you get injured, it's a lot of benefits. Because as an archer or as an athlete who has sports in his or her life, it is always possible to get injured, okay? Sooner or later, there is an injury. I have been doing sports since my youth, were quite serious. But the point is the way that you walk on, so not the goal. So it is what makes fun, really, and it is what develops you. So you have to, you can walk a few steps and have to stop. Maybe you have to recede a little bit, but you have to. This is what I'm trying to say. When you get injured, you have to learn how to recover fast and how to reach your previous condition. And Kepaze to provide these benefits. I also want to share a very interesting experience with the audience. Yes. I have a student who had scoliosis. You know, this is deformation on the spine, and right. She had to undergo a surgery as well. So it was a very severe. Of course, a little bit hesitant to teach her with the first stage Kepaze, but we elongated the period of the first stage of training. It is 8 weeks here under Tirendaz. I'm not very sure. She could safely start shooting on the torba stage, on the second stage of the training, and afterwards, when she went to her doctor to be controlled, because these scoliosis patients need to go to their doctors on a regular basis. The doctor was really surprised, and it's like a checkup, yeah. Not a general checkup, but they have to be checked up because of their scoliosis story. Mm-hmm. And the doctor said, she said to me actually, the doctor and the doctor also wanted to know what we did so that he could recommend what we are doing to his patients. So it is very interesting. Okay, so I cannot say, of course, that Kepaze training is good for healing scoliosis. It would be a big mistake to say something like that.
Yeah.
But this is an experience, and even if it is just for a case, it is very, very promoting. And this is again to say in learning, in maintenance the skill and strength, and in recovering from surgeries or from breaks. When you have to take a break, or a long break, months, let's say, it's a wise decision to start by pulling Kepaze. So here I have to say that we have to maintain our mental stability as well, because in this time we have to maintain both our physical fitness as well as our mental fitness or mental health. And Kepaze, although it is not real shooting, these two fundamental practice or training will help to maintain our mental state as well as archers. Because if you can shoot, it does not matter whether you shoot at 100 meters or just 2 meters at a target. So these are the recommendations of mine that were proven actually. So I am doing that. Many of my students do that. And the general fitness as a part of the physical conditioning of any traditional archer, as well as maintaining our health during lockdown.
Excellent. I want to just touch upon the issue of Kepaze. What is the original meaning of the word? Because you said it could come from Kepade and then Kepaze. And then also, when we are actually doing Kepaze, the actual pulling, what should we be thinking about? What is the aim of Kepaze? Because we're not actually shooting. Are we focusing on the biomechanics, on the back tension, on alignment? What is it that we should be doing it with the goal in mind, please?
Okay, perfect question. Well, Kepaze is actually muscle memory. The muscle memory has been a cliche. You can encounter, or you can come across it in any book about archery or in any book about sports. What is this muscle memory? Let me explain that first. Cells, okay, and these nerve cells have some extensions. These extensions are electrical stimuli will be led to the other nerve, these axons to each other. Okay, so these electrical impulses goes from one nerve to the other nerve, and then to the other nerve cell. Eating, whatever we are doing, all the cognitive activities is based or are based on this sort of sheet, and this sheet is getting thicker when we repeat any physical exercise. Practice playing an instrument and doing the same thing in singing, for example. You may know that, for example, the singers practice giving the same note. The throat consists of muscles as well, so you are creating or acquiring muscle memory there too, together with the muscles that function the lungs, of course. This is a sort of a neuromuscular memory. And in Kepaze training, you are doing that only for pulling, but the pulling is very important. Release is another issue, of course, which you will learn and maintain with turbo training, but in pulling, there are extremely important things. One of them is, in archery, the most interesting part in the biomechanics is of the muscle. But these two groups of muscles are working on the same direction. So this is very contradictory, very interesting, in my opinion. Biceps are involved, right? And your back muscles are also involved. But when you come to full possible, but from a shallow mechanical point of view, it is impossible to do that, but it is. When you have a good back tension, and if the position of your ball hand and position of the elbow of your pulling hand are in a good way, get out of the stage. So it should be, because biceps works or work, let's say there are two with the forearm muscles, and in the forearm muscles you have to release, whether you're doing it with three finger release or with thumb release, whatever you do that. If your biceps is still flexed when you come to full draw, then there will be some problems in opening your hand. So all these muscles are working synergistically or agonistically with each other, which means some muscles work at the same direction or by supporting each other during the function. So the real purpose of the Kepaze is learning to activate some of these muscles while very important to I am teaching to observe the muscles by palpating. So I say to my students to put their fingers on my rhomboid muscle and to my bicep, drawing of and feel how during the pull. So of course, even showing it that way is not that's why it comes naturally out when the exercise is done properly every day and with high repetitions. Because when the muscle gets tired, then it does it with minimum effort, and the technique, what we call technique, is actually doing it with minimum effort. So the most efficient way of doing a physical exercise is called technique. So that's why the high repetitions are important, and these high repetitions also thicken the axon sheath, and therefore the electrical impulses travel faster after the thickening of the axon. So there's a scientific reason movements and the neurological transfer. We have this and examined theoretically to find out the similarities. For example, in Japanese martial arts, it's that that 10,000 of repetitions is necessary. Punching technique, a basic punching technique, 10,000. And in all Ottoman treatises, the number given for Kepaze pulls, the minimum number is 12,000. So the similarity is incredible. It cannot be a coincidence that one say 10,000, the other say 12,000. So it is probably the human nature, how the nerve cells develop, or how our subconscious mind learns to do a biomechanical move.
Interesting.
Do you need a break?
Yes, I think what I want to do, Murat, if possible. I'm also having some internet problems on my side, and sometimes it's a little bit slow when we hear you, but we get the information, but it's sometimes a bit choppy. So I think if possible, we're going to pause here and we will do maybe a part 2 and a part 3, maybe later this week if you are according to your schedule. And then I also wanted to talk about, we mentioned the Kepaze, I want to talk about the turba and then the darb technique. And then we had a couple of other questions that people were sending me to cover. But I think for now, if we pause this as a part 1, I mean, there was so much information there, very, very fascinating stuff. Every time we speak to you, we learn so much as well. And then it's easier for people to digest, and then we can do a part 2 or part 3. Is this possible with you? Is this okay?
Of course, would be my pleasure. So next time we can talk about torba, maybe in the famous book of Ünsal Yücel, Dr. Yücel. It is mentioned that for being a good dark shooter, you have to be a good torba practitioner or torba trainee. So this is also supported or confirmed by my observation. So yes, we can talk about torba and darb next time if you want.
For sure. And then also the images and the videos you sent me were very interesting. I want to show it to the viewers, and then you can explain what is going on in those images and the videos as well. We can do that next time.
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to say, or what I was intending to say, is among the practices, among the drills that we can practice to maintain or enhance our archery skills during lockdown is speed shooting, of course, fast knocking. Fast knocking can be practiced easily by just sitting in a couch in your pajamas. So it's not necessary to shoot somewhere. You can just knock and release the string from a centimeter without harming anywhere. So among these images that I had sent to you, there were some speed shooting moments or during this interview for the audiences. And other than that, if people are interested in the bodyweight training, they can find a lot of information on the internet, both videos and texts, of course. So I can provide more visuals if you want. So next time let's talk about torba training and darb, as well as the other drills other than Kepaze and torba, about speed shooting, fast knocking, which is not archer or thumb draw archer is on a certain level. Then he or she can practice these drills as well, again, to acquire or maintain the muscle memory.
Excellent, excellent. There's so much information that we need to cover with you. Since the first interview, there was so many questions and things that we had, and I'm very happy that you are able to give us some of your time. So thank you very much for that. We hope you get home safely and stay safe. And then we will
My pleasure.
We will speak again in part 2.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, we will. Okay, just let me know when you put that onto YouTube. Okay.
100%, of course, definitely. Thank you, Dr. Murat. Thank you very much. See you soon.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Jad. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.